See the. Okay. Hello, everyone. Today we're doing a live on cash versus credit, and my guest is going to be Brittany Green. I'm just waiting for her to join. Let me see if I can send it to her right here. Brittany. Okay. So today's live is cash versus credit, and I think Brittany's on here. So as soon as she joins, we'll get started. I'm so excited for this conversation because I think a lot of people think you. Here we go. Okay, so there we go. Hey,
Hi.
hey, it's good to see you again.
Good to see you, my love.
So I was just letting everyone know that this live is based on cash versus credit. We just want to have this conversation because a lot of people they think that cash is king, but when you really understand how to
hmm
leverage your credit, it opens the door to the different possibilities. And I wanted you to
Yes.
get started on educating on that because I've seen you grinding and educating on credit for the last 3 years. And at first I was like, what is she doing? What's going on? And just to see how you've been so consistent about it has shown
hmm
and proven your track record of knowledge for this because you were
hmm
featured on BuzzFeed, Yahoo Finance, and I just think
hmm
you are doing your thing. And I want to give you your flowers now
Thank
because
you,
we are
love.
admiring you.
Thank you, my love. It is so good to be here. We go back, okay?
Yeah. I was
We
like, I
go
hope
back.
she don't bring up the JC Penney day.
Oh, I was gonna bring it up because we go all the way back, and I think that from then, us just we've been giving each other flowers for years because just being in that space, I got a chance to learn how you work, and I got to because I'm gonna give you your flowers too because I got a chance to see how you work, how dedicated you are, and how you'll take a subject, you'll tackle it, and you'll say, okay, I'm gonna break this down. So she is the reason why I started taking subjects and really breaking it down because I'm like, you know what? I love the attention to detail. I love the overdrive that you give because you really, put your passion into everything that you do. So, it's great to still have this contact. It's great for us to be in this same space
Mm-hmm.
and to be elevating together. So I'm excited about today's conversation because we're on not two separate ends of the spectrum, but a spectrum that so many people don't necessarily pay or plug too much attention to, and
Yeah.
that's where their
Mm-hmm.
power lies. So now we're going to get a chance to both like powerhouse knock them out with it.
Yes, I think in the financial industry, there's this school of thought that you have to go one way. But
Yup.
I say this to my dad even. I'm like, there are 1,000 ways to skin a cat. And so
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's just understanding which way works best for you
Right.
to understand how you're going to get to that end goal. So
Right.
you're talking about credit, and I'm talking about cash in the form of life insurance. But I wanted
Mm-hmm.
you to go ahead and start off and tell us what's that most important thing that you think people should know about credit that they just don't know based on going through
Mm-hmm.
school and college because that's something they do
Mm-hmm.
not teach us is financial literacy.
Right. Right. And I'll say I actually learned the hard way. So, we did what our parents told us to do. We went to college. We did the internships because obviously we did it together. We had, we made ourselves very marketable. But then when you get off into the real world, it's like, okay, how are we prepared to be adults?
Mm-hmm.
And yes, there are, you can fail and get yourself back up. But it's about applying those principles. So one thing I'll say is what I learned the hard way is that it goes even into your jobs. Like you can make yourself as marketable as possible. But I was actually denied for a promotion because of my credit. So that's what actually started my journey. So it's like it's one of those things where take it seriously because you never know when you're going to need it. You never know if you're going to get in a car accident and you need to get another car tomorrow. God forbid, right? Or you never know when, you need to refinance something because money gets tight in the home. Like Corona hit. We all thought, and I mean 2020 is still a great year despite everything that happened because I think, it's a blessing in disguise for everything, clear out the old and get the new. But
Mm-hmm.
Corona hit, and that was something that nobody, people didn't really expect. Okay, so now you have to bring more money into your home. Well, now you have to refinance some things, but you can't do that if your credit is poor. So the one thing I'll say is to really take it seriously. You don't have to spend thousands and thousands of dollars, for a credit repair specialist to come in and fix your stuff. If you don't have the money, there's a solution for everybody. YouTube University, Google College, start educating yourself. I think that's the number one biggest thing, is to take it seriously and educate yourself. If you don't have the money, no problem. I post educational videos about credit on my page almost every week, right? You have YouTube. Find the person that's best for you. You have Google College, YouTube University. Those are things that you can educate yourself with. If you have $25, head to Amazon. There are books that you can educate yourself with. I have a book on Amazon, A to Z Credit on Amazon. If you have that, okay, go do that. It's all about what type of budget that you have. You can always find a solution. But the main thing is really educate yourself, because you never know when you're going to need credit. You never know.
Let me speak to that. Something that I think is very common in not even in just our community, but in the school system, is before you go to college, they warn you credit is bad. And that's the last time you hear about credit until you graduate. But that's the disadvantage, is waiting until you graduate to learn about credit. Because
come on,
because and I know you can speak on this better, but credit is based on how long it starts with your history of credit. And if you would have known that credit is not bad, the utilization or misutilization of credit is what's bad if you don't understand the tool. So I think for us, something that we can talk about today, because I had this conversation just last week with the school, University of Florida. I was talking to some of their incoming freshmen that credit is not bad. It's just not understanding how to use the tool, and using that tool incorrectly that messes people up. So could you kind of walk us through what's the most important thing to understand about your credit score, and how to use it to not be used wrong?
Of course. So, and I'll say this, even in college, sometimes they'll have the tables out there that'll have like free shirts, free pizza. They got me with free pizza. They got me to get a credit card with some free pizza. I'm a college student. I'm broke. I'm hungry. Feed me. I'm going to use this credit card, right?
Yeah.
But when you get that card, it's not about, because this was the strategy that I used in college. Oh, I'm going to rack it up and I'm going to just pay it all off, right?
Exactly.
And though that helped me get the credit score that I was looking for at the time, it was not the best way to go about it. So one thing I'll say is, when you get your credit card, before even using it, understand the difference between your Advantage score and your FICO score. That's the two major things that you need to understand, because I don't want you to walk into somewhere and say, oh yeah, my credit is a 750, when your credit is really like a 695, because you're looking at two different types of models, right?
Yes.
So on Credit Karma, it's going to show you your Vantage score, right? Only 10% of lenders or 10% of people out there that's going to approve you for credit are looking at your Vantage score. Versus if you log on to Experian.com, you can get the free version, or you can pay to see all three scores, right? Or myfico.com, you can pay for that subscription as well. That shows you your FICO score. Number one, understanding that as the clear foundational piece is going to be important, because 90% of lenders are looking at your FICO score, and they want to see how you're managing that. And once you have, you understand, okay, this is what this score is. And it's not to say that one is better than the other. Just at the end of the day, you have to go where the traffic is. And the traffic is, they're looking at your FICO. That's where you got to go, right?
And
so that's what you want to make sure you understand.
Yeah, because
and that's what I'm saying. It's not that it's more and that's what I was saying. It's not that it's more accurate. It's that's where 90% of lenders are looking.
Okay.
So, but when the shift comes, because there's going to be a time, when they're a competitor, right? So it's going to be a time where you have more lenders that look at your Vantage score. So that's why I say understand both, because you're going to have a time where it shifts, where the Vantage score may be considered more accurate, right? Versus if you look at FICO right now, that one is the one that's considered more accurate. So when you look at your FICO score, since that's the one that 90% of lenders are looking at, break down those 5 points, right? Understand your payment history. Always pay on time. If you can't pay on time, communicate that you can't pay on time. And they oftentimes, especially now within Corona, they have things to help in and step in to make sure that, either they waive you a couple months, or they give you a smaller amount that you have to pay, and they'll say, okay, as long as you pay like $30, then we won't count you as late, right? That's 35% of your score. Always pay on time or communicate when you can't to see how they can assist you, right? Number two is the second biggest piece is your utilization. That's 30% of your FICO score. Make sure when it comes down to that you keep it under that 30%, right? If you're going to use your card, make sure that by the time it's time for it to report to the credit bureaus, or by the time it's time for your due date, it's under 30%. Don't have it at 90% utilization. Don't have it at 80% utilization, because even if you pay it off at $0 at some point of the month, if it reports at 90% of the utilization, it doesn't matter what you do in the rest of the month. It does not matter, because guess what? They're going to look at that 90% that reported and say, you're desperate for credit. We don't want to give you any more. You're a risk, right? Those are the two major pieces.
And that's something I was hearing, that you use under 30%, but let me make sure I'm hearing this clearly. You can use 90%, but as long as by the time, right before they check for how much credit you're using, you need to get it down to 30. Okay. That's something that
yes and no. And I'll say, and the reason why I say yes and no is because if you only have a line of credit of $200, it's easy for you to hit 90% quickly. So yes, you would use that method of, by the time it's time to report, make sure it's under 30%, right? Yes, that's when that would be a yes. But if you have $1,000 limit, I would not recommend that you charge up $900 and then get it under 30%, under $300 by the time it's time to report, because that's too risky, right?
Yeah, it does sound risky.
You want to if the higher your limit, the less you want to use, right? You want to give yourself a max budget. If I have $1,000 limit, I'm going to only use 300 max, because that's going to land me at 30% regardless, but I still got $300 to work with. Versus if I have a $200 limit on my card, then of course $200 is easier to pay back than $900, right?
That's smart. I'm glad you said.
Unless you balling.
It just depends on the person, but I'm glad you said that, because it's all about leveraging the credit, but also mitigating the risk involved in using that credit. And so that's something that I think has been so popular lately, is the conversation of leveraging credit. When people bring up that word, and what would you say is that definition, or what are people talking about when they talk about leveraging your credit?
So first off, thank you, Gara. I see you. She said my hair is cute. Thank you, Gara. So leveraging, so you can leverage it in a number of different ways. Me personally, some way that I've been leveraging my credit lately is to invest in the stock market. Now, I do not advise doing this if you are not educated and if you are not disciplined. I have only gotten to this place because I am disciplined. At one point or another, I could not do this. I was not educated nor disciplined. It was not going to work. Okay. However, that is one way that I have leveraged my credit. You can leverage it to buy, flip, sell real estate. That's also another way that you can leverage your credit. You can leverage it through your business, right? Through, if you need to get products or you need to get qualified for business credit, you run it a certain way. So we create plans on how to run it a certain way so that you leverage it to get qualified for certain types of business credit. Because of course, if you're new to it, you have to jump in. They have to look at your personal credit beforehand. Another way that you can leverage it is through Velocity Banking. That is a way to pay down debt, which is amazing. And then, of course, what you're into, infinite banking, that is an amazing way to leverage, because you're now setting yourself up for that. Say, for example, you now have your line of credit. You can use that to get your insurance policy to then get yourself in the right direction. Because some people say, oh, I don't necessarily have the cash on hand. But if you got the credit on hand and you're using it as an asset versus a liability, then you can now buy into these different programs that are a necessity for you to now be able to leverage, invest, and flip.
Yes.
And of course, homes and cars and stuff like that. But that's most of that is liabilities if you ain't using it right.
Exactly. Thank you so much for saying that. I see William is saying that's very insightful, so I appreciate how you're explaining, and shout out to Ron as well. He's in the credit industry. He's tuned in as well, so shout out to y'all. And she brought up infinite banking when it comes to life insurance. A lot of people don't even know that they can leverage the funds and cash value in their life insurance to do that same strategy. If you do your research, like you mentioned, the infinite banking strategy, the Velocity Banking, is using a whole life insurance plan to pull out cash value and use it to spend money on things you would have already spent money on. But now your life insurance is doing multiple jobs. You're securing your life you're securing your death benefit where if anything were to happen to you, your family would get the
Yep.
funds to cover those that income, the loss of income, but
Mm-hmm.
also you're using it as a living benefit to
Yep.
strategize and say, okay, I'm going to pull this money off and pay for this cash and then make sure that the interest is confirmed or guaranteed at a certain rate. So it is so
Mm-hmm.
critical for us to know the different strategies of how to leverage your income through
Yes.
cash or credit, but understanding here that we're really trying to stay on the credit and understanding how you
Mm-hmm.
can leverage your credit and the small things that you could do to increase your credit. So would you have any
Mm-hmm.
tips for people that are just thinking like, man, I really want to understand my credit? What are those things that you would say are impacting people the most when it comes to their credit?
So the two areas that I mentioned before with
Mm-hmm.
utilization and payment history, that's
Mm-hmm.
probably one of the biggest things that is impacting people, because you have some people that have zero utilization and you're
Mm-hmm.
penalized for that because now your file is stuck, right? If
Exactly,
you
because
don't
you're
have,
thinking it's a good thing.
right, you're like, oh, I ain't got no credit, I ain't got no debt. Listen, bad debt is what you don't want. Good debt is what you want to capitalize on,
Mm-hmm.
especially now. It's this book that I'm reading right now by Robert Kiyosaki. And it's called The Unfair Advantage. And it's
Mm-hmm.
talking about how so many, and even it was The Unfair Advantage, Rich Dad Poor Dad, and the
Yeah.
Four Quadrants books that are, I ain't gonna lie, they really good when it comes down to understanding how to, move your money and make your money work for you.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes down to your credit, a lot of people are like, "Oh, I don't want debt because," and no shade to him, because he's great at what he does. But Dave Ramsey is teaching people to live without credit, and I wish we were in a society like that. However, we're not, and this country is ran by credit. And if you're not figuring out a way to capitalize on it, you're losing. So it's one of those things where if you have no utilization, it's time to get you some guaranteed or some easy approval accounts and a strategy on how to move and work with it on a month to month basis. Because see, the thing is, people think, oh, I mess up, let me not do anything ever again. I just want to leave credit alone. And then you now stuck with that bad behavior because they see no good behavior, following that, right? So having something that you do on a strategy that you use on a month to month basis, that's what's going to help lenders look at you and say, okay, you may have messed up in the past, but you fixed it. You got some good behaviors now. Let's rock with this utilization, right? So that's one thing, is when people don't have any utilization. And then when people have too much utilization, right? So finding a good healthy balance with utilization and always paying on time, that's going to be the two factors that are the biggest when it comes down to your credit. Oh, last thing, negative items. People will let negative items control their lives.
Mm-hmm.
You got to face them head on. You got to get educated about it. I was literally talking about it not maybe a couple of days ago on the I think it was on live, and I was talking about how a lot of people will let these negative items just linger and ignore it and run away from it. And that's another thing that's really impacting us. If you are uneducated about the negative items that are on your file and how to properly deal with them, they will run your life and ruin your credit. And when you start facing them head on, that's when you actually see the benefits, because that you see that's where your power lies, in that education. So yeah, those would be
Yeah,
the 2
and I
points.
would say for those negative items, that's something they want to reach out to you on, so you can educate
Mm-hmm.
them and provide them the solution for that. But something you
Mm-hmm.
brought up too was Dave Ramsey, and another
Mm-hmm.
one is Susie Orman. They're like financial personalities. They're actually not
Mm-hmm.
in the industry, and they can't provide
Mm-hmm.
you the solution that they're preaching against. So it's like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to the internet, you do have to do your own research. You have to find out
Yes.
what's going to be the best strategy for you, because debt free is one strategy, but not all of us want to stop at being debt free. We want to get up
Mm-hmm.
to a place where we're doing creating generational wealth and
Right.
leveraging our income to create more income and passive
Right.
income. So when that conversation comes up, you're thinking about a debt cancellation strategy versus a
Mm-hmm.
success and wealth building strategy. And so when it
Yes.
comes to life insurance, even Dave Ramsey has opinions about life insurance,
Mm-hmm.
but a lot of people are seeing life insurance as an investment where life insurance is a
Mm-hmm.
guarantee. So when you're talking about life insurance, that is something you're guaranteeing. It's on your safe
Mm-hmm.
side. There's no risk there. Where investments is something that you actually have to take a risk with. So we have
Mm-hmm.
to understand how to apply the terms and the different financial vehicles we're
Yes.
using, because I don't think that there's one size that fits all. It's one
Hmm.
strategy works in one way. So you're putting a
Right,
triangle in a circle block. No, that's not how it
right.
works.
And that's not it.
Exactly. So we have to have that conversation and say, hey, let's open up our mind to understand that if you're talking about wealth building, there's a lot of
Hmm.
strategies. You have to do your research and show yourself approved that, okay, this is actually what I'm
Exactly.
most comfortable with. Because even when it comes to investments,
Hmm.
they're going to have you say, okay, what is your risk tolerance? If you have a risk tolerance of 0, then hey, life insurance might be what you want to stick with because it's something where you're not taking
Right.
any risk. You're guaranteeing something for your future generations while also, depending on the plan you have, securing some emergency funds inside of that. But if you have a
Right.
risk tolerance that's a little bit higher, hey, this is where you can use your cash in the markets and do things like that. Or then
Hmm.
and still with credit, that is something that I'm still trying to understand, just that balance of peace, but I see how much it helps to have a great
Hmm.
credit score. Like the doors open so much
Hmm.
wider when you
Because
have
it's
a
a
great
prep.
credit score.
It's a preparation for wealth building, to be honest, because at the end of the day, it's a foundational piece that you have to cross. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's one of those things where you can't, um, just if you cut your arm wide open, you cannot immediately just go back to playing a sport, right? You have to sew up that injury before you can move on to the next piece. So I like to look at the way that I teach credit and the way that I educate people on credit is
Mm-hmm.
for it to be a foundational piece for you to begin wealth building, because there is no way that you can think, oh, okay, let me go ahead and do this, do that. Because where we come from, a lot of our people don't automatically have that access to money as
Exactly.
as they would like to. So it's one of those things where if you can educate yourself and you can get your credit together and you can get yourself back together, you have access to more funds that you may not be able to have when you're at, when you're just working your job, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
if you or in your business and you need to create extra capital, that's the way to do it. And then when you're educated on it, and then you get to a good place where you have all that access to those funds, you can then use it a lot more smart than you would have if you just had access to credit and no direction to use it. Because when I
And
first had credit, I was
mm-hmm.
just buying food. I love to eat, y'all. So that's all I was doing.
Me too.
Buying food, clothes, and necessities. But all of that stuff racks up. And then what?
Mm-hmm.
I want to be able to have money to invest or have access to certain things, and I didn't have that access. So that's what it gives you, that's what it gives you leverage to do.
And something that you have brought up, or I saw on your page, is how having better credit helped you with purchasing a car. And something that
Hmm.
Ron, the other credit specialist I talked about, he brought up is about
Hmm.
zero interest cards and things of that nature. Would you
Hmm.
say, or is there anything that you would like to speak on when it comes to the power of credit when it comes to purchasing a car or the zero interest loan credit cards?
So when it comes to purchasing cars, one thing I'm gonna just automatically say is one thing you can do is go to myfico.com or Experian.com, print out your report, pay for that service for that day, and
Mm-hmm.
print out your reports and then take it to a dealership. I did that with my last car because I was like, what I'm not gonna do is run my credit 37 different times. It doesn't make sense to do all of that when I could just show you what's on here, show you from top to bottom, and I mean a full report of what's on there. So that's what I would do when it comes down to that. When it comes
Mm-hmm.
down to interest on like actual cards, I don't necessarily speak to that. Just because the way that I run my strategies, it should run you no interest anyway. In the strategies
Okay.
that I provide to them, it should run to no,
Mm-hmm.
to not no interest anyway. So I
Okay.
leave it up to you to have the discretion to choose. Okay, hey, I want to be with my bank. I love my bank. Okay, cool. Go with your bank. They may have interest on those cards, but here's how you run it. You won't experience interest as long as you run it this way. And then
Okay.
even if you do have a little bit of interest, it's okay because it's not going to be like it's you're racking up $900 on your card and now you gotta pay interest on that. I don't teach people to use their cards over 30% anyway. So if they do use it over 30%, it's kind of one of the things that falls on them. But I leave that
Mm-hmm.
discretion up to them.
Well, that's phenomenal that people should know that they have that option. And working with you, you're going to
Mhm.
help them in a way where they don't have to worry so much about the
Mhm.
interest, but you're teaching a strategy that's really going to utilize their money in the best way and improve
Mhm.
their credit. So I'm glad you stated
Mhm.
that. Would you say there's anything else or any other tips that you wanted to put out there? I know you said you have a course coming and things like that. I want to give you this
Hmm.
platform to speak to those things before we close out.
Yeah. So when it comes down to your credit, for real, stop being scared to look at your score. Because if it's bad, so what? I was there. Like 2018 when I lost my job, my credit was in the 700s. It went all the way down to the fours, and I got it all the way back up. So it doesn't matter when it falls. It doesn't matter what happens in life. It doesn't matter what kind of irresponsibility that you had on your
Mm-hmm.
file. It does not matter. But what's most important is that you accept, you acknowledge what's going on, and you say, okay, you know what? That's the first step. I've acknowledged it. I've looked at it. It's not where I want it to be. However, I'm going to make it my point to get it to where I want it, to get it to where I want to be. I do free reviews on your file so I can tell you, okay, these are the target areas, because a lot of people don't know which areas it is that's hurting their score. And you have a lot of credit repair folks, quote unquote, that will, say, oh yeah, come over here, I'll pay me $1,000 and I'll fix it all. But yet all they're doing is sending off some letters to the credit bureaus. That may not be what you need, right? So let's go ahead and get a free review done for you so that we can figure out exactly what it is that we need to target on your file to help you balance it out. And then the last thing is be consistent. It's not about what you do overnight, because it didn't, yeah, your credit score may have dropped overnight because of a mistake, but you can build it back up in no time. It doesn't have to take 2-3 years for you to get it together. But it's going to start with being consistent. It's not what you do one time. It's what you continuously do over and over and over again to make a difference on your file. And the only way that you're going to be able to do that is by, again, acknowledge, accept, and put a plan in place. So I can help you out with that. We have the A to Z Credit Masterclass. I guess I can go ahead and make you guys the first people to know for Black Friday. The A to Z Credit Masterclass will be $25 entry, so that way you can get all 5 modules, and you get the lifetime access and month-to-month coaching calls. We actually have a coaching call tonight, and we, where we educate and I answer any questions and things like that. So you can, educate yourself on how to make it happen for yourself and make it happen long term. Or of course, I have other resources or ways that you can work one-on-one with me as well.
Now you said that was acknowledge, accept, and what was the last one?
Consistency.
And consistency. And I think that can be
Consistency.
applied to almost every lane. And that's why I have these
Mm-hmm.
lives and I try to get different perspectives on here, because
Mm-hmm.
I've realized that with adulthood, a lot of us don't know what we don't know until somebody
Mm-hmm.
comes up and has this conversation with us. And now it's
Yep.
time to take a second look, because when you don't
Yep.
know something, sometimes that creates a fear and you avoid it. But
Right.
avoidance puts you in the
Right.
worst situation. So something for
Don't
our
do it.
generation, for our community, is to actually start having these conversations and learning
Mm-hmm.
more about them so that we can take the
Yep.
right course of action. Because a
Add
simple
that to the list. Education. Add that to the list.
I put that down for you.
Education. Because if you don't know what you don't know,
You
you
don't
get
know.
scared. So yes, education and
Mm-hmm.
and application. Oh yeah, add that one too. Okay, that was the last one.
That's
Application. Because if you don't apply it,
it's just information, and that's the
right.
thing, we have to act on this. So I really appreciate having you on here to just speak
Of
to the credit
course.
side of it, where we talk
Yes.
about just really leveraging your credit, and then also
Mm-hmm.
where I speak to the cash side of it, of the cash value life insurance, is again just another push for us to at least start the
Mm-hmm.
conversation, speak with
Yes.
someone. If you want to reach out to me, I have a link in my bio. And for the time being, we offer free consultations where we'll even evaluate your current life insurance, because a lot of people just have it on their job and think they're good.
Mm-hmm.
But if you change the job, the life insurance doesn't go with you. And the last fact that
Right.
something that I learned from working in this industry with my father, we service a lot
Mm-hmm.
of different funeral homes. And one of the funeral
Mm-hmm.
homes we service in North Carolina, we asked him, well, you serve predominantly African Americans. So how much would you
Mm-hmm.
say a normal or the average African American leaves to a family? So we asked him, in the last 10 years, how many Black families left over 6 figures to the next generation? Guess how many families did? In the last 10
2%.
years, one family. There was one family that left in the last 10 years. Only one family left over 6 figures to pay for burial and leave funds to their family. That and the funeral homes, they're the ones that work with these insurance policies, so they know for sure who's leaving what. So to find that out
Oh
just
my
makes
God.
that's and then we wonder
It's too
why
much
our
money on the
communities,
table.
yeah, we're leaving money on the table, but that's what's impacting our communities. If you only leave a
Hmm.
burden for everyone that transitions, they only leave the burden of needing to raise money for funerals, then
And that
there's no
stops
wealth
now.
transfer. There's no wealth
That
transfer.
stops now.
Yeah, that stops now because our generation, I can tell you for sure, we are about the action of not only education, but
Hmm.
application. Because nobody going
Right.
the wrong way stays the wrong way if they know they can turn around and fix something. So that's
Honey,
what
I'm
I
only hit my
preach.
head on this wall 5 times before I say, okay, this ain't right, clearly. I'm
Yeah.
gonna turn around and figure it
Mhm.
out.
Exactly. We have to figure it out, and it starts with just really knowing what you have or getting something
Right.
in place. Because if we do it when we're younger and our healthiest, we can
Hmm.
transfer more wealth than if we wait to the last minute. Because that's what we
Right.
come into contact with in our business is that when we talk to people at our age in our 20s and 30s, they say, "Oh, I'm good for right now. I'll worry about that when I have a family." Well, when you finally get that family and you're like 35, 40, it costs a lot more to get life insurance than
Hmm.
it did when you were young and at your healthiest. So
Right.
I think
I
it's so
love that.
necessary.
And
Hmm.
please get y'all help. I mean, literally, please get y'all life insurance. That was one of the things that I started working on when I was 18. I wasn't playing no games. I was like, no, y'all gonna get me together because I knew, okay, I don't know what I'm gonna be doing in life, but a wealth transfer is crucial. It's needed,
Hmm.
especially with where we're going with, how the economy has been going. You always want to make sure that you're on point.
Exactly. That's true. And that's something that I feel most accomplished about too. Well, one of the things of a few. One is having that life
I know
insurance
that's
and
right.
getting it. I got it when I was 24. Huh?
Hmm.
What did you
I say,
say?
I know that's
Well,
right.
I got it. Yeah, so I got it when I was 24, and the great thing about the life
Hmm.
insurance companies is they actually send you an annual statement to let you know how your money is
Yeah.
growing, how that dividend is being paid
Hmm.
into your policy. And when I tell you, when you're spending other your money in other avenues, but you have this
Hmm.
security here in the life insurance that's saying that, hey, this is what's making you money and building you money here, secured and guaranteed, that is an accomplishing feeling because it feels like, okay, this is my emergency savings. And so that's what I preach.
Hmm.
That's the message that I stand on and educate. And so we'll be offering another live on Facebook on Thursday,
Yes.
you all.
Yes.
At like you say the time, so I know it's right. What's the time on the
Um,
Facebook Live?
7 p.m. 7
7
p.m.
p.m.
Eastern Standard
Facebook
Time
Live.
Zone.
Yes, Eastern Standard Time Zone. We will be on Facebook Live to continue to educate and bring this information because
Yes.
Brittany and I are going to do our part in educating our community and
Yes.
providing this value where it is definitely needed.
I'm excited.
All
I
righty. Well,
hope
if you
y'all
guys,
enjoyed this one.
yes, I hope you all enjoyed it and appreciated it. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to either one of us. But yeah, I'm good here.
I'm good here, y'all. Thank you so much for having me, love.
Yes, my pleasure. Thank you so much for doing this live. You guys have seen her on Yahoo, on BuzzFeed. If you want some information about credit and to be educated, reach out to Brittany, reach out to me for life insurance, and we'll go from there.
Bye, y'all.
I don't know.